My fiancé broke our promise of buying a house together and said he's going to put only his name on the deed, yet he still demands that I need to pay him half of the mortgage. Posted by you/embarrassing lemon. For some background, I, 29F, and my fiancé, 30M, have been together for 10 years. We had a baby back in 2020, and I lost my job around the same time. Our lease on our apartment was up, and my grandma offered for us to move in with her, so we did. We basically had our own little apartment rent-free. I had floated the idea of going to school, and everyone agreed it was a good idea. My fiancé paid for it, and my grandma watched my baby while I went to class. I graduate this semester. I attended part-time for a few semesters. My fiancé has been making $90K a year for the past couple of years, and $70K when we first moved in. He saved a good amount of money. We agreed to wait to get married until I finished school and we could buy a house together. We've been looking at houses more seriously for the past couple of months and found one we both love. We started talking to a mortgage broker, and that's when he dropped the bomb, that it would be him and only him on the mortgage and the deed. He said I wouldn't have anything to do with it. I didn't say anything in the meeting, but afterward, I told him I thought we were buying the house together and that I'd pay half the mortgage. He said I would be paying half the mortgage, but my name just wouldn't be on it. So I told him that would mean I'd have no right to the house, and he said he knew? He said since he saved the 40% down payment, it's only fair that he has the rights to the house in case we end things. I told him if that's what he wants to do, then I'm not paying for the mortgage. I said this isn't a partnership, and if he just wants his own place, fine, but I'm not paying for it. He called me a beach, saying that he paid for everything for the past few years, including my schooling. I told him I stayed home and watched our child so we didn't have to pay for daycare, and that ended up saving us money since I would have only been able to work part-time. He said he didn't care and that I need to pay half since I already agreed to it. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay the mortgage? Top/relevant comments. Commenter. He got free rent and free childcare thanks to your family, which allowed him to save that money. If your name isn't on that house, you shouldn't put a dime into it. Ops response. I'm honestly rethinking getting married at this point. This feels so out of left field, he's literally never treated me this way before. I thought going to school and taking care of our son while not having to pay rent would have been an equal trade for him being able to save money, honestly. Commenter 2. Don't marry a guy who pulls this at the 11th hour. 30 years in mortgage lending, pulling this during the application is a real dirtbag move. Too chicken to discuss it in private. Some really unbelievable stuff would come up sometimes, usually more like undisclosed debt, bad credit, tax liens, and secret child support. Besides ownership, he'd probably have you paying for all the utilities, food, cleaning, and maintenance from the get-go. These types of men? It's never just one thing. Commenter 3. Can you guys not sign a contract where he owns 70% of the equity and you 30%? He puts down 40%, the remaining 60% is split between both of you, and you both pay the mortgage? He is a jerk for how he spoke to you. Ops response. It's not that I'm against doing something like this, but it feels like he's already thinking of screwing me in a divorce, and we're not even married. Update 1 day later. So first, thank you to everyone who commented. A lot of you had great insight and were very supportive. To those who weren't, I got to see a perspective of how my fiancé might be feeling, so thank you for that too, although some of you were extremely misogynistic. To answer some questions, my grandma offered to give us a place to stay for a few months while I looked for a job and so we could save some money. This was at the beginning of the lockdown, and no one was sure what the job market would look like. I had brought up finishing my degree, and my grandma offered to watch my baby while I was in class. My fiancé said he'd pay for it since we didn't have to pay for rent or daycare. He called it an investment in our future. I got a Pell Grant and a scholarship, so he ended up only having to pay, on average, $3.4K a year for the schooling. If I wasn't going to school, my grandma didn't want us staying there long term. This was purely her trying to give us a leg up and help us in our future. She wouldn't have done so if she knew what my fiancé was going to do. She said this. For the update, I told my fiancé we needed to talk about this arrangement, and I asked why he changed his mind all of a sudden. He said he worked hard for his money and didn't want to lose everything if we got divorced. I said that was fair, but he's now putting me in a position to lose everything if I have zero rights to the property. He said I didn't save up the money, so the house should be his and his alone until and unless I put down 40% also. I asked if he'd consider a prenup that would give him the 40% he put down and we'd split 50-50 the rest of the equity. I said this would protect the lump sum he put down while also giving me equity I'd be paying for. He said he'd have to think about it, but he doesn't like the idea of having to sell if we split. I said then he can get his own place that he can afford on his own if he doesn't want me on the title that badly. This one he could barely afford with just his income, not sure if he'd even be approved for the mortgage on his own, to be honest. I also mentioned that I wanted to do couples therapy before we get married. He said no, that we didn't need therapy and I just needed to listen to him. That was the end of the conversation. I don't know who this person is. This is not the man I had a child with. The man I had a child with massaged me every night while I was pregnant, he listened attentively to every random thing I wanted to talk about, he treated me with the utmost respect, and he was the only person I wanted with me while I gave birth. He used to say he could never hurt me or screw me over because it'd hurt our child. I love him so much. I don't know what happened. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Up, you need to run. This can get very dangerous very fast. This man is desperately trying to overpower and control every aspect of your life. It starts with it being his house, then it's his money, his child, and you're nothing. I don't want to scare you, but it feels as though he baby trapped you. Meaning even if you decide to leave him, you'll be tied by the child you share. He doesn't want to do therapy because he is aware of his behavior. He knows what he's doing. The therapist will know his true intentions and expose them. He's trying to gaslight you into thinking he's not being abusive. Please get separate accounts and stay at your grandmother's place until you can get a place away from him. Ops response. We do have separate accounts, thankfully. He'll have zero access to my money once I start my job in a couple of weeks. Downvoted commenter. Sounds like he maybe feels resentful for having to pay all the bills? Or it may just be deep misogyny, power over, not an equal partner. If this is the case, count yourself lucky that you're finding out now. Pay him back what he spent on your education and say no thank you to moving in together and continuing your relationship beyond co-parenting. Ops response. Why would I pay him back for the schooling when the only reason we didn't have to pay rent was because he paid for it? I saved him over $100K. It doesn't seem fair to me to not only lose out on a marriage I thought was going to happen, but also a house and money that was supposed to be for us. No one would be saying I should pay him back if we were legally married. But because he wanted to wait until I had a stable job and career, I have to pay him back now? $17K because he changed his mind? Hell no, he already mooched off me and my grandma, I'm not giving him money for crap. Commenter 3. It does sound like he's been red-pilled and joined the manosphere at some point. But I've also noticed this trend where men kick into antiquated, misogynistic attitudes at key points, such as engagement, marriage, pregnancy, and childbirth. It's like a button gets pushed in their brains, and all the misogynistic, patriarchal attitudes they've absorbed over their lifetime rise to the surface. I guess these events are central to male-female relationships, so they can trigger strong beliefs about what male and female roles should be. And the female role, in their view, is to serve, sacrifice, and get nothing in return. It must be very hard for Op to come to grips with this dramatic change in someone she thought she knew. The irony here is that he's only able to buy a house because of two women, the grandmother giving him free rent for 4 years and Op paying half the mortgage. But he doesn't see this. Suddenly, it's all his effort and his money. Actually, it's grandma's money. She could have rented out that space and had money in the bank. But he doesn't see that he's taking advantage of two women. He just thinks